Hello and welcome back to my grainy ass videos. Hopefully I don't grain on your nerves. Today I want to talk about how I personally care for my leopard geckos. There's many ways to care for a leopard gecko, but this is how I personally do it. The only rules we're going to start out with that you should never do in leopard gecko keeping is sand, calci sand, and cohabbing, males or females. Now, this is my setup behind. Complaining already. This is the setup behind me. I do not consider this cohabbing because there is a divider. It does not allow this little chunky monkey here to go over it because she's missing quite a few of her claws, so she can't climb. And I'm going to go into specifics of how you are going to have to adapt to your leopard gecko's specific needs. So on this side, we have Ezzy's side, which has a lot more coverage than Poppy Seed. So Ezzy has all of her claws still, but she's very shy, and because she's albino, she's light sensitive. So there's about 4 hides in here. I count the log as a hide because she likes to sleep in there a lot. But she doesn't really like having that open feeling of having the feeling of being exposed. And all of the hides except for one block all light in them, so she doesn't have to have any eye damage. Now she does climb a lot more, which is why she has a lot of elevation and stuff for her to climb across into. Poppy Seed's side has this plant in there. I've been trying out. It doesn't really do anything for her since she can't climb, but she has a lot more low into the ground items. And she mostly spends her time in one hide and doesn't exercise, so I have to take her out quite a bit, because this chunk monk is 83 grams right now, and she may be egnant. My human hides are both towards the middle of the 55, because you don't want them on the heater. And I've noticed, I haven't seen anybody talk about this, but where you put your water bowls is also very important. Do not put your water bowl on top of the heating area because it will evaporate faster, and you should refill your water bowl every day. But if it's on a heater, it's going to be evaporating, which adds humidity to their enclosure, and being from Afghanistan, you don't want a lot of humidity in there. Otherwise, they're going to get respiratory issues. So you don't want the water bowl on a heater. As well as when you do clean your water bowl out, you are actually going to want to wipe it out every single time because it does start to get a slime residual on it. And I feed my little babies hornworms, which they've all been on strike right now, so I have a bunch of hornworms that aren't getting eaten. Very frustrating. Thank you, Josh's frogs, though. I have mealworms, which I breed myself. I have them in a little drawer system here. There's holes in the bottom of the water cup so they can go get it from the bottom. And I feed them avocado, yellow squash, carrots, sweet potatoes, broccoli, just a really nice varied mix. I have some superworms that I've been working on pupating lately for food. Oh my god, Poppy. Okay, go on the bed, you sassy little girl. So there's a pupa in there of a superworm getting ready. I have no clue how I'm going to tell the males from the females, so that's going to be interesting. I of course have water conditioner for them, and I don't like just putting it in the bowl, so I use an old Fuji bottle and I just shake it up in there, and that way I don't have to run back and forth. Also, I'm sorry if there's background noise. I have a fish tank up there, a fish tank behind the camera. I'm looking into getting a surge protector for when I move, just because I'm going to be in a larger house. I'm also, so what I haven't seen anyone talk about in the reptile community is backup generators. I live in a very snowy state of South Dakota, and I'm wondering, is it a good investment to get a backup generator for my reptiles, because yes, theoretically I could just use hand warmers that I have on tow, but if it goes out for like more than a day, we're gonna have an issue. So it might be a valid investment to look into on my part. Now, when handling a leopard gecko, she clearly doesn't like going over my hand. That is what upsets her and makes her grunt. You want to have, she's about 8 to 9 inches right now, so she's gotten pretty long. She's not quite a two-handed gecko yet. But she will also jump to her death. Some leopard geckos don't understand depth perception, so you have to be real careful. Some of them will just, see, my hand, if I wouldn't have been there to catch her, she would have just fallen. She doesn't understand depth perception, which is another reason why, if your gecko does not understand depth perception, I suggest not having a lot for them to vertically climb on in their tank, because they will just kind of throw themselves off of things. As where Ezzy does understand those things, and she tries her best to slide down and move around. As where Poppy Seed, if she were to actually try to climb any of this, she just will fall to her doom. And I also have to cut into her humid hide because she's officially become too much of a chunk to fit in the holes. So after this video, I'm probably going to go take like a saw or something and then file down the holes just so she can fit in them better, because she's become such a chunk. Also, I found that once in a while your leopard geckos will just refuse to use their humid hide, and you will have to spray down the hide they're using currently when they go into shed. Otherwise they will have a bad shed. So sometimes leopard geckos just refuse to use their humid hide. Such a sass. I've also found that if you don't have enough different textures in their enclosure, they will have nothing to rub on, and they will get a lot of stuck shed around their face, and sometimes Ezzy just refuses to rub, so she gets stuck shed on her snoot, which was very stressful to get off. She tried to bite me quite a few times because she just wasn't having it. I don't know what else really. I'd say another thing that all leopard gecko people should get is slate. Because, and I'm not talking like going down to a local store and getting the pieces of slate that big. I'm talking like going down to a rock shop and getting like decorative slate that's like bigger and longer, because I find that they much rather enjoy laying on slate for their warmth. It just projects the heat in a way they like better than their substrate, as well as if you are going to have loose substrate in an enclosure, you want to have solid things for them to walk on and solid things for them to lay on, because you wouldn't want to only experience one texture in your entire house. Like, that'd be weird. Like, you have tile floors, you have wood floors, you have different types of carpet. So don't use one substrate for the entirety of their enclosure. That's no bueno. Other just regular care things for leopard geckos: no sand, nothing smaller than a 10-gallon. I personally would recommend a 20-gallon long as a minimum, just because it's a little hard to fit everything in a 10-gallon, and the vertical gives them a lot more room. I personally am not a big fan of 10-gallon tanks for leopard geckos. If you were somehow able to find a 10-gallon long at a expo or something, I would recommend that. I also wouldn't recommend keeping your tank on the ground. I'm simply doing it because I'm moving soon, and it'll be easier for me to order a stand online and have it shipped to my new place of living than haul more stuff across the state. That just doesn't seem like a good investment. It's much more easier to buy that stuff. I don't have any cork bark in here for them yet, because I've been waiting for Go Horping to put it up on their channel or on the website, and I want to do a little research, because to my understanding some cork bark trees are endangered, so I wanted to make sure that where I get my cork bark from, it's from an ethnical farming of the bark, and I know that that's probably not something I should have to worry about too much with most companies, but you never know. Another note with these guys is never feed them anything that's not live. I really don't recommend feeding any sort of dried mealworms or anything like that. If you need to grub pie, I have it on hand in case they decide to just be really difficult during the summer. Hi. Hello. Do I need to stop talking? Well, she's gonna stare at me. Oh, okay. Also, your geckos are going to have different personalities. Some of them are going to be shy, some of them are going to be skittish, some of them are going to be enclosure aggressive. With Scott, he is very skittish inside his enclosure. He's not a leopard gecko, but some leopard geckos don't want to come out of their enclosure, and as soon as they come out of their enclosure, they're just fine and dandy. You gonna climb my arm? You gonna scale it? It's my hair in your face, I'm sorry. Also, I'm thinking about, since she has so little claws, that's another thing, I'm completely against Repticarpet. It's glorified felt, in my opinion. It's got dye in it, and I wouldn't recommend using anything that has that kind of dye in it, but it just rips claws so often. It's personally harder to clean, in my opinion. I don't enjoy cleaning it the way the poop sticks to it, and just the only positive is that, like, things can't burrow into it, but I mean, if you get a worm under the carpet, like if your carpet is not flush to the tank, then you are going to have worms that get underneath it. And that's honestly a pain, because you're much more likely to notice a worm that's burrowed into substrate than you will one that's gone under the mat. And it's much easier to get them out. I also feed these guys, oh my god, you are just a klutz. I also feed these guys dubia roaches, but my colony has not been reproducing how I would like it to. So they only get dubia roaches oh my god. Oh my god. They only get dubia roaches every so often, because I need to order some more and get them to breed more properly. I don't know why they're breeding. I ended up getting a bunch of males, and sometimes it just be that way. Also, wouldn't soak these guys unless you have to. I know soaking can be good for sheds, but I personally rather take a little warm cup of water and then use Q-tips to get shut off. I find it really stresses my geckos out personally, and I know if yours has a neurological disorder, it can very, very horribly stress them out. So I much more am on the side of, if you have a gecko with stuck shed, use a Q-tip that has been moist, because it'll stress them out a lot less. And I find that once in a while when I've soaked these guys, they just dunk their heads and then they're like snorting water out, and I'm like, that can't be good for you. That's one fast way to a respiratory infection. You can theoretically house female leopard geckos. I don't recommend it. This is the closest I will ever get to cohabbing. Oh my god. She doesn't even, like, she slides on my skin. That's how bad she doesn't have any claws. Like, she will just scoot down my leg, as where Ezzy will actually be able to hold on. Ezzy's not coming out right now because she is sleeping. She is doing a sploot underneath her log. I realize I've been blocking Poppy Seed's side for the most part. She has this in here, which is also a, let me point with my foot, yes, classy, which she also occasionally goes through, but she doesn't really like laying in it. I don't know why. I've once in a while got her like peeking out through here. I'm gonna stop pointing with my foot. God, I am just a ball of awkward. She poops in this corner of shells, which is really convenient because then I can just take the shells out and rinse them off. I try to put a rock in their poop corner or something they will poop on regularly. You can also do this with a paper towel, but I feel it looks better with a rock, and That's just how I like doing it. It looks more natural, and I'm sure it feels a bit more natural to them. Poppy Seed, do you want to go back? Okay. The hardest part with her is putting her back in her enclosure because she preemptively wants to go back in. And she's just going to go straight back into her hide because that's how she do. You gonna go back in your hide, puppy? She's not even gonna be graceful about it. She hates having cameras on her. That's all I can really think about right now. Of course you want to dust things. You always want to dust your worms and your roaches and stuff, but actually I found lately with Poppy Seed, she was getting ready to go into ovulation and she started forming calcium sacs on like the bottom of her jaws, and I was freaking out because I watched Jessica's animals and she has a leopard gecko named Verizian who is a lemon frost morph who has like a tumor there, and so I was like, is that a tumor? And I'm like, oh no, it's just a calcium sac. We Gucci. But it turned out she'd just been enjoying the calcium that was in her enclosure too much. She was just eating too much of her own calcium. So I use this for the calcium dusting. It's just Rapashi, and then for my extra vitamins and minerals, I use Herptovite. And of course I have some grub pie on hand if I ever need it. Please don't feed your leopard geckos fruits and vegetables. They cannot digest it. Do not feed them like baby mice. That's way too high in fat. Do not feed them any fish. I haven't seen anyone feed their leopard gecko fish, but don't do it. It's not part of their diet. They are strictly insectivores. So don't feed them anything other than bugs. I don't feed crickets because I don't like the smell of crickets. I don't like how they look. I might do it as an enrichment thing come spring, but I'm not really a fan of crickets. I don't like them. They're high in their shell content, they're low in protein. I don't really like them at all. I feel like they're almost even harder to gut load. They're harder to care for than any worm, and in my opinion they're harder to care for than a roach because a roach doesn't make noise, they don't smell, and they don't hop everywhere. I hate things that hop. I don't like the thought of me trying to go and grabbing an insect and they hop at me. If you have a phobia of insects, don't get a leopard gecko because you are going to have to feed insects, and if you can get over it, that's great, but I hate touching even my hornworms. Even though I think they're cute, I hate touching them. I hate the way a worm spazzes. You're gonna have to deal with bugs every other day of your life, and if you can't handle that, don't do it. You're gonna have to, I recommend breeding your own bugs. I really don't recommend buying them. It's just more safe, in my opinion, to breed your own bugs because you know where they've been, you know what they're eating. A leopard gecko is much more of just having a leopard gecko. It's having bugs, it's having water, it's having to do all that stuff. As where crested geckos, you don't have to do nearly as much of that stuff. I think I've rambled quite a bit for this video, so I'm gonna cut it.